What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the after credit scene. We're breaking down episode 2 of Secret Invasion. There's a whole lot to go over, including that big reveal at the end of this episode. So let's get right to it. Before we do that though, please like and subscribe to the channel. Share this thing all across the multiverse so that we can hit 200 subscribers. We are well on our way, but we need your help to do it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting. Let's get right into the action. If you watched our prediction video, we actually went about 7 for 7 on our prediction video this time, although I would say 6 for 7 because the last one is more of a prediction for the entire show, and that remains to be seen. However, a lot of the big elements were pretty spot on. We got a lot of broader world involvement. There's a lot more conversation, especially between Rhodey and Nick Fury. We got some scenes with Olivia Colman's character, Sonya, which were fantastic. Probably my favorite part of the episode. And we also got some more sci-fi elements with regard to the Skrulls, which led to a really big reveal moment and a really big pause your TV moment so you can see exactly what's going on type thing. So the fallout between Talos and Nick Fury, which we will get to, and then the back and forth, will she, won't she, is she, isn't she, with Gaia regarding her allegiances. And so let's just kind of break down the episode real quick because there was a whole lot going on. I want to make sure we cover all of it. We start off with a flashback to 1997, which is 2 years after the events of Captain Marvel. We find out that that Fury has promised and is trying to make good on his promise to help all of the Skrulls find a home. He is trying to recruit them to help him with some international espionage, basically to build S.H.I.E.L.D., if you think about it. S.H.I.E.L.D. was already there, and he was working with it, but his career, his renown, some of his mystery and how he knows the things that he knows and all those things were very could very well be explained by his connection with the Skrulls, especially if nobody else knew about it. But in those moments where the Skrulls, he wins the Skrulls over to his side with the help of Talos, you also see Gravik as a kid. You see Gaia as a child, and all of the buildings and the underpinnings of that promise that Fury makes to them, that hey, you help us and we'll help you, and understanding that it was 20 years now, over 20 years, 25 years, that he has made this promise and not been able to find them a home, which leads to an interesting theory that I have towards the end of this review. After that, you get some comments, some throwaway comments about some different people, particularly with Talos and Fury, as Talos is helping Fury escape from the carnage in Moscow, and they're on a train, and they have this argument back and forth, this falling out, and honestly I thought that was great because it needed to happen. They're both angry, they're both frustrated, and kind of hinting around at it or not really getting at the point really wouldn't have done this show justice. There needed to be some moments that weren't very cloak and dagger, but were very on the nose when it came to this person is angry and this person is angry, and their agendas and their fallout is palpable. It also pointed out to me for the first time that this might be, with the exception of Maria Hill, and maybe even more so, this might be the only person that Fury really cares about. Obviously, notwithstanding the bonus scene at the end there, which we will, I say the bonus scene, the last 10-30 seconds of this episode, that we'll talk about here in a second, which I have some theories on, so I'm not really lumping my comments about him and Talos into that. This might be one of his only friends, and he has a falling out with him. They've been working together, they've been friends, they have a soft spot for each other, they rely on each other in ways that Fury doesn't rely on anybody else, and neither does Talos. And to see them have a falling out, to find out that Fury feels like he's been lied to, that there have been all these people there that he hasn't known about, that Talos sowed the seeds of what was coming, and Talos is still upset because Fury is acting like nothing's wrong, that this is Talos's problem to fix. When Fury let down his people, he disappeared. He's more upset that his friend disappeared, and Fury is more upset that his friend lied to him than he is about all this other stuff, which is interesting territory for both of them to be in. I think that they have problems with these interpersonal relationships, but they seem to have a good handle on the international espionage, world is ending type thing. Talos drops a line about another colony, Emperor Draga, or Emperor Droge, his colony. I'll be honest, I did not have time to dig into that. I'm sure it is an MCU thing, or not an MCU thing. It is a Marvel thing somewhere deep in the archives, and you guys can probably find it and add that and share that for me. That would be fantastic. And I might make a TikTok or something to kind of fill that gap. The betrayal that they both feel in this episode, especially in that one moment in the train car, right down to Talos leaving and Fury just kind of being upset at himself about what just happened. You flash back to, you get a flash to modern, not say modern day, that was modern day, but you get a flash to Fury on the tarmac as Maria Hill is brought off of the plane, put into a hearse, and Fury is confronted by Maria Hill's mother, and the conversation there is very tense. It was one of these scenes that I'm sure some people will say it was kind of a throwaway, that she didn't get proper respect, but it's definitely nice to see them, I won't say using that, but seeing that scene and it being integral to some of Fury's, not just maybe his collapse, but his journey back towards being the Fury that he used to be. They're really playing up that angle with regard to the storyline, and that he hasn't done enough. I think the danger is that it's going to cause Fury to maybe do some things that he wouldn't have normally done, take some steps that he wouldn't normally take, or act in a very irrational way. And we see that later on with this conversation with Rhodey as well. We jump to Gravik going to the Skrull Council, and through a series of news clippings and news reports and different things like that, you get to see some of the players early on, and you find out that some very major players in the world are part of this Skrull Council. The NATO general, one of the prime ministers, the news pundit on what I can only assume is their version of Fox News. But these different characters that are in very real positions to influence world politics, and Gravik is among them. And there's a couple of them there that I don't think we've seen yet. Maybe you can correct me from episode 1, but I didn't recognize them, particularly the woman that stands up against Gravik and leads the meeting. But Gravik makes a point and appeals to them, and they appoint him Skrull General, which I'm assuming means that not only does he have his own rebels, but he is now in charge of the movements for all the Skrulls, and that the council will go with his movements and pass along messages to other Skrulls all across the world, which ups the possibility of what could happen and what might happen. And he kind of forces their hand, so to speak, to be able to have access to all of those, all of the Skrulls that are living on Earth, and that definitely makes the danger level and the threat much, much higher. They mentioned something called the Harvest early when Gravik goes back to his hideout. As Gaia is kind of poking around, we see a look at Rose Dalton, which I think is going to be a bigger deal in the future. The assumption, given what Olivia Colman's character Sonya pulls out of another Skrull during interrogation, is that Rose Dalton is perhaps not Skrull, but a human scientist, and that there's some other work going on there. And as Gaia is going through computer programs and looking at files, she finds out evidence that perhaps they are working on trying to splice superhero DNA, or mutant DNA, whatever you want to call it, with their Skrull DNA. The idea being, if the Skrulls can mimic other people's DNA, that maybe they might be able to inherit some of the superhero capabilities as well, or figure out how to do that. I would assume, given a couple of scenes that we have seen from some of the trailers, particularly one where Gravik stretches out his arm in a very Groot-like way, coupled with the fact that the DNA samples that Gaia stumbles across under Dr. Dalton's file show that she has sampled Groot's DNA somehow. And I would imagine that they figure out a way to do that. The culmination of that, in particular, if they are able to not only use Groot's DNA, but if you paused that scene, they also have Cull Obsidian's DNA, presumably from when his hand got cut off in New York by Doctor Strange's portal, because it shows a little hand on the screen. And then also with the Frost Beast from Jotunheim, which I'm assuming they somehow found. That's a little plot hole there. The end of Thor: The Dark World, there is a Frost Beast on Earth in a bonus scene. It makes it to Earth through a portal and playfully runs off. So I would imagine that's how they found that somehow. Nice little plot hole there. And then with a nice nod to Extremis as well. I would imagine the Extremis thing definitely pops up again. And I would imagine with Cull Obsidian and the Frost Beast, it's probably more immunities to things, or a strength thing, or a size thing perhaps. But the Groot one is definitely going to come back, and I would imagine the Extremis one does as well, that they have figured out how to heal themselves in that regard through something like Extremis, and utilize the heating or the fire capabilities of that as well. If you Google Super Skrulls, you get a pretty good smattering of things with that regard, but most of them are connected to the Fantastic Four. They might be combining those. There might be some kind of reveal in here, some kind of Easter egg that links this research to that research. It would be interesting to find out. But that was a huge moment right there. If you stopped and paused it and figured out a little bit about what they're doing, I would imagine the harvest refers to them harvesting different heroes' DNA. Wouldn't be the first time we've dealt with that. She-Hulk definitely dealt with some groups trying to harvest Hulk's DNA, and those kind of storylines tend to flow through the Marvel comic universe pretty readily. So there are a lot of different elements going on there, and you're seeing different storylines revealed. Olivia Colman's scene where she is interrogating the captive Skrull, one of the best scenes in the movie, and every scene that she is a part of, she completely takes over. She's an excellent casting choice, and I love watching her on screen and seeing the juxtaposition between how Fury is kind of grasping at straws here, and she seems completely in control. It's going to be interesting to see how those two forces work together, and everybody is kind of finding their spot on the chessboard, so to speak. We're slowly uncovering, I wouldn't say watching the chess pieces move, but I think we're uncovering a chessboard that is already a couple of moves in, and we're seeing where different people are and where their allegiances lie. I think they're doing a great job with Gaia, not really letting you know if she's spying for anybody or if she's actually on Gravik's team and she's just uncovering things that she doesn't agree with. I think there's definitely going to be a struggle of conscience there. Same thing with Talos. Now, whether or not somebody jumps sides, they may take it upon themselves to do something. It may cause a whole new issue later on when Gravik is dealt with. It's going to be interesting to see how that's handled. The political aspects of this I actually find really intriguing, particularly the conversation between Rhodey and Fury, because Rhodey is in front of the NATO Council and he's very adamant. Like you get the impression that he is being very protective of Fury and Maria Hill and all these different things. And as he walks out, it feels like Fury has the upper hand. Fury is very cloak and dagger, calling him on the phone, hey, nice suit. Rhodey can't find out where he's at. And then they meet at a restaurant, and the tables quickly turn, and you find out that Rhodey is really more interested in protecting the United States at the moment, or maybe just his own interests. And he feels that Fury has maybe gone off the rails a little bit. It will be interesting to see how that plays out. But Fury takes a moment and kind of puts himself at odds with Rhodey. I think Rhodes' character in this show is very foreshadowy, if I can use that word, as to what kind of character and the tenor of the Armor Wars show. I know there's going to be some Ironheart things in there, and it's going to kind of be maybe another one of these political, military, explosive type thrillers. But it was interesting to see that version of Rhodey, and I think it really fits him to have to kind of try to find his place after the blip, and to not just be hanging out at the Avengers compound waiting for something to happen, because that's not a thing at the moment, and it's going to have to become a thing again. And so just like everything happened in Infinity War, the Avengers weren't assembled, there weren't Avengers, and everything that Tony said would happen happened because they weren't together, they weren't bonded, and Thanos had an opportunity to attack them when they were vulnerable. Same thing's going to happen moving forward with Phase 5 into Phase 6. They're not going to be unified, and if they're not unified, these threats are going to continue to bubble over. So they're laying a lot of groundwork, and this show feels a lot more interconnected with the MCU as a whole than the other shows where they've kind of been these side stories that you could kind of take or leave. Even though they were excellent stories, they relied more on backstory and telling a new story than they did about really integrating into what's currently going on in the MCU. And you really can't get around that with this one right now. The ending scene where Fury escapes, comes home, presumably, and walks around the corner to where you see a Skrull woman who you saw at the beginning of the episode in 1997, who was with Gravik. You find out that this woman is presumably Fury's wife, and because Fury puts on a ring and kisses her at the end. Now, rolling with theories, and we're going to do this at the end of every one of these reviews here as we kind of wrap up. My money right now, obviously, I think some kind of reveal as to certain people have been Skrulls the whole time is probably gaining some traction. But if my money was on anybody being a Skrull that we've already seen before, Rhodey acted very out of character, unless his personality, his allegiances have kind of changed. That, trying to throw him off, and it would be very interesting for a Skrull to pretend to be Rhodey and to try to get Fury to back off, to make him an enemy of the state as well and ostracize him so that he's incapable, and to use the Maria Hill thing as a catalyst for that. It would be part of the plan. Another thought is that Fury has been a Skrull for quite some time, that the real Nick Fury is off somewhere trying to find them a home like he promised to do. It would be an interesting turn of events if this Skrull version of Fury ends up being outed at the end or confronted with the real Nick Fury, only to find out that the real Nick Fury had kept his promise and was off somewhere finding a place for the Skrulls, or if the version that comes back is clearly a different version than that a Skrull took his place. There's no telling. It would be very interesting. Would not be the first time that somebody had used Fury's face or Maria Hill's face. Could also be a way that they find to use Maria Hill again. She very well could not be dead. She might not be dead. If Fury is using his own network of Skrulls the same way that Gravik is, and that may be a side or a shade of the scene at the beginning that was more than just Fury broke his promise, and it was a little bit of foreshadowing as to Fury has his own network of Skrulls, and he's tapping into that, and there's some people that he hasn't contacted yet. And he would definitely have a connection to that through his wife on the lowdown. And it would be very interesting to see how all of that works, that maybe Fury is more in control than you think he is. It would certainly make sense that he might be. because why would he leave Earth if he thought it wasn't in good hands to do the things that he's doing? It kind of seems out of character for him, although out of character for who he was. But if this is who he is and that's the story they're telling, then that's who he's becoming. And so there's a whole lot of are they, aren't they, who is, who isn't, all those kind of things, and it's playing off very well. So I'm curious what you guys think. There was a whole lot of awesome in here, a whole lot of theories to go down. I liked this episode and the pacing of it and the reveals that they gave and the cloak and dagger aspect of it. I liked this one just as much as I liked the first one. Neither one of them were bad episodes. Both of them were very solid. I'm curious what you guys think about it. Tell us in the comments. Please like and subscribe to the channel as always, and then share this thing all across the multiverse so more people can get involved in the conversation. And check out some of our other content over here. We've got a lot of things you can sink your teeth into. And when the next one drops, guys, we'll catch you right back here. Later.